Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Super Easy Data Quality with Unison. My name is Elizabeth Freyer, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm joined by Joseph Fertito and Michael Johnson, who will be your presenters. Before we get started, I wanted to run through a couple of quick housekeeping items. First, we encourage you to ask questions at any point during the presentation. We have a chat box to the right of your screen. We will answer as many questions as we can towards the end of the presentation. Also, we are recording today's session, and we'll send you a link to it in 24 hours. That's all I have for housekeeping items, so I'll now turn it over to Joseph.
Thank you, Liz. Again, my name is Joseph Fertito, Product Development Manager. I'm Melissa. And also joining us for the presentation is Michael Johnson, Sales Engineer. Today, actually, I'd like to go through a few slides for now, just to kind of explain what our philosophy is behind the product, Unison, and some of the problems that it's able to address and some of the things that it's able, or its core functionalities. So Unison, Unison is our latest product, and we're officially announcing that now. And our philosophy behind building this new software is that we wanted to build something that's all inclusive. And what I mean by that is we wanted to bring a lot of what Melissa does, and we focus much on cleaning data, being able to provide data quality solutions, and we've done this over the past almost 30 years. And we bring solutions like address quality, geocoding, name verification, etc. But most of them have been kind of separated or exclusive to its own API. And really, this tool, we wanted to do it so that we bring every single solution and API in a centralized location. We wanted the tool to be intuitive, straightforward, and quite easy to use, and empower a lot of the business users out there and data stewards. But at the same time, we wanted it to be flexible. And by that, I mean being able to accommodate advanced users who have more complex business rules. So simple yet powerful is our philosophy behind it. We wanted something that's also collaborative. Again, empowering business users and promoting that collaborative environment so that people can work on projects together and get things done quicker and faster. And of course, certainly, especially true with some of the bigger companies out there, we want something that is secure. And security has been a big topic recently, especially again with a lot of these big companies. So we wanted to be able to address that. And of course, we want a tool that is fast, and last but certainly not the least, measurable. And what I mean by that is, we want to be able to produce the appropriate analytics and reports so that you can know exactly how much has improved, what has been done to your data, and how much uplift you're actually getting out of the tool. So Unison platform, what are some of the things that we're able to address with the tool? What are its core functionalities? Well, again, as I previously mentioned, we wanted something centralized and focused to data quality. This platform is designed to focus on cleaning data. It's not just another tool that we've added onto. And this is what we've kind of been doing over the years by providing APIs and plugins. For example, in SSIS or SQL Server, we've got different types of plugins that we provide with the tool so that you can do data quality within those platforms. But now we really wanted to build something from the ground up where we focus on data quality as opposed to plugging into other types of tools. Again, as I mentioned, we have so many different solutions. And as you can see here on the graph on the left, we focus on things like data profiling, data standardization cleansing, checking verification, enrichment, fuzzy matching, and record consolidation. And we want to bring all those functionalities together in a single tool. And also, we offer solutions at a global scale. So we don't only accommodate clients here in the US, or if you have contact records that are at a global scale, international scale, we will accommodate that as well. And we wanted the tool to be able to connect to a lot of the major database platforms. Right now, it will connect to Oracle, SQL, MySQL, and of course your flat files, which are the standard, but these will be extended later on. And the GUI is intuitive, it's powerful, it's done through a web application, and this is how we kind of centralize the solution. So next point I want to bring up is the scalability factor. Scalability in the sense that the way we've delivered the product is through a client server architecture. So you're not necessarily doing any processing through your own local machine because everything is done through the browser. And what we've done is we've made use of container technology, which has become more and more popular over the years. And this is how we maximize the processing power of your CPU. And we're able to scale as well horizontally and do some grid computing and make use of several servers in case you needed more throughput and scalability. So what we've seen in our testing, in our processing, is that we're able to get over 50 million records per hour processing just for plainly address verification. And this is probably one of the more expensive computations, address cleansing. And we've seen blazing speeds with this type of architecture. Again, collaboration, again, a major factor that we wanted to bring into the platform. We offer support for multiple users. Projects can be private or shared. Shared projects will be able to, other people will be able to review, to edit, to run. And that way people can share their thoughts and suggestions on how to better cleanse your databases. Running scheduled jobs are also all visible, and you can set up automated job scheduling. And really, this empowers the data stewards because everything is done through the GUI, through a web application, and everything is quite simple to set up. We wanted the business users to be able to engage with the platform as well. Security, is one of the major aspects of this. We offer different levels of authentication. There's admin users, there's user level authentication, and it's also able to connect to LDAP in case you wanted to make use of your current authentication system. That should be able to easily connect to that as well. And for those who, I know a lot of the medical companies out there prefer something that's stored in-house. The solution is actually an on-premise architecture, which means none of the information is being sent out on the internet. Everything is kept within your own domain. And for anything that gets done in the application for any of your specific projects, activity logs are all available. You'll be able to see what changed, who changed what. So the change history is there as well for you to review. And last but certainly not least, reporting and analytics, certainly a major aspect when it comes to data quality and performing your analytics. So we provide you with what we call result codes, and we'll see all of this through the demonstration that Michael will be providing later on. There will be result codes that will address to you or let you know exactly what happened to your records. How many good records do you have? How many bad records do you have? How many records were changed? All of these reports, all of these statistics and problems that have been detected will be presented to you through graphs and tables, so that you know exactly how well your data is doing, how bad or how good your data is actually doing and performing. And from there, you could go back and make some adjustments to things that you need to do with the tool in order to make things better, or maybe manually review some of the records that have been flagged as bad. So with that, I'd actually like to pass on the mic to Michael Johnson, who will be giving his demonstration of the Unison platform from Melissa.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Michael Johnson with Melissa Global Intelligence. So I'm just going to be giving a brief product demonstration of our newest product, Unison. Just give me 1 second here. Here we are. So as Joseph mentioned, this is just a web-based web app application that you're actually able to access through any modern web browser. So here I'm just accessing this through Google Chrome. So what you'd want to do is go ahead and set up your, sorry, just zoom in so y'all can see it a little bit clearer. But so you just want to go ahead and set up user login, so that way a user can go ahead and log in here. So I'll just go ahead and log in as the administrator here. So as Joseph mentioned earlier, there are two types of users. You have the administrator user, which will be able to handle any updates to the platform within the actual app itself, and your typical normal user that can go ahead, log in, create projects, schedule projects, etc. For the purpose of this demo, though, I'll just be talking about the process of creating a project, running the project, and what you can expect with the project results and how you can actually leverage those results. In any case, we're looking at the dashboard of Unison. When you first log in for the first time, you'll be presented with this dashboard, which gives you some very generic information, such as the last jobs to execute on this server, the last projects that you as the user has actually logged into and made any changes to, as well as some very general statistics as far as how many rows the actual server has processed, how many errors were found, and how many rows we've actually corrected. In any case, let's go ahead and run through project creation. So right off the bat, you're presented with a screen to actually go ahead and name the project. What you name it doesn't really matter. I'll go ahead and just name this Unison demo. Oh my goodness. Demo project 1. It's a good chance to talk about private versus public projects. So by default, all projects will be public, meaning that anyone that logs into the application can go ahead and see that project, log into it, make changes. If for whatever reason you don't want that accessibility to that project, you can go ahead and make a project private. I'll just go ahead and leave it as the default public. Here, you're actually able to set up your input connection, whether that's inputting a flat file or connecting to any database of your choice. As Joseph just mentioned, we do support Microsoft SQL, MySQL, as well as Oracle database connections. All you have to do is go ahead and name the connection, set up the database host name, as well as the default port number, the database name itself, as well as, this is an important note, a database username and password. So for Microsoft SQL, that might be like a SQL Server user and password to go ahead and authenticate that connection. But for the purpose of the demo, I'll just go ahead and upload a flat file, which is actually not on this machine. So I'll just go ahead and take a look at a project I've already created here. So let's say I went ahead and created this project. I uploaded the flat file. This would be the screen that you'd be presented with after uploading the flat file here. So you can actually preview exactly what the file looks like. You can go ahead and say, well, I don't care about this data here, the company, email, phone, the name. I don't care about that. I really just want to validate, standardize the addresses provided in the file. So I can go ahead and turn off any columns I don't particularly care about here, but I'll just leave them on here. If you don't like the way the file is set up here, you can go ahead and change anything. We do support fixed width files, so if you have a very old file that you need to go ahead and process, you can go ahead and configure the fixed width setting here. If you don't, or if the file doesn't include a header or row, you can go ahead and disable that here. Or if you want to manually change the delimiter or the enclosure, you can go ahead and do that here. But let's just go ahead, since this is looking good here, we'll go ahead and save the input file. Since this has already been created, we can see that there's already a task configured here in the output, but let's just go ahead and configure another task. Let's say another address cleansing task. Pop in here. Actually, this is a good chance to talk about this. There are two types of address cleansing tasks, the US only as well as the global. So the global only can go ahead and validate, standardize any address across the globe. We do support all 240 countries and territories, while the US only will only validate your United States addresses as well as actually Canada addresses. But I'll go ahead and just create a US only task here. So something to note, by default, the application will attempt to automatically map your data based on the input column names as well as the data in those columns. So we'll go ahead and pick the top, say, 5 records and say, well, this looks like an address line 1. So we've automatically mapped that here. This should probably be changed to city, so I can go ahead and manually change that here. As well as the state and the zip code, we've determined to already map those in here. So let's pop down here. These are the output fields here. You can see here that we're going ahead and auto naming these to be MD underscore, just to differentiate between the input map, our input data, and the output data. If for whatever reason I didn't want to have any output data or any of this output data, I can go ahead and manually turn these on, but that's entirely up to me, the user. There are additional output fields that aren't enabled by default in these tasks, and this might be the ability to go ahead and parse through some of this output information, such as the pre-directional street names, any private mailbox information, additional address fields such as suite names, the +4, urbanization, address type codes, geographic information, so the latitude, longitude, perhaps the geocoder place codes, county FIPS codes, as well and as the census detailed, so any CBSA data that you may or may not be interested in. For each of these outputs, you can go ahead and rename this to whatever you want. If I wanted to rename this to MD adder range, I can go ahead and do that. And I could just go ahead and save that down here. All right, so we've got our address component created here. So let's go ahead and set up a new output location. Demo location 2. So you can go ahead and give this whatever extension you want. We recommend a text file by default, but you can certainly change that to perhaps a CSV, TSV file, whatever file format you prefer. I'll just go ahead and leave that as a text file. You can go ahead and set the enclosure for this file. By default, it'll just pre-populate with whatever the previous output configuration was, which happened to be a double quote here. You can go ahead and select the delimiter you want. So if you wanted it to be tab delimited, you could select that here. Or if you wanted a custom delimiter, you could go ahead and just fill that in with, say, a semicolon if you prefer that. But I'll just go ahead and leave that as a comma. If you want to go ahead and write to a compressed file, you can go ahead and do that as well. So you can write to a gzip file or a zip file, but I'll just leave it as none. If you want to include the header information in your output file, you can go ahead and keep that option enabled. Or if you plan on scheduling this project to run on an hourly, daily basis, whatever kind of basis it may be, or running the project multiple times, you can actually append a timestamp to the file. And what this will do is make sure that every instance of the execution of this particular project doesn't just go ahead and overwrite this output location. So that way you can see whatever differences in project configuration you made. You can see the differences in the output data. And an important option here is this preserve input file order. So what this does is it will read your input file and it will actually output the output file in the exact same order as that input file. And something to note is that this will negatively impact your processing speed just because we have to reorder that data and output it in the exact same order as your input file. So it will slow things down, but if that's something you prefer, you can go ahead and have that enabled. Something cool here is the output filters. So we have various default filters already in place. So if you wanted to filter only the good addresses, you could go ahead and set that here. And this is a result code based filter. So you can go ahead and create custom filters if you so chose. So if you wanted only bad addresses for whatever reason, you can go ahead and put in AE01 and that would put in all the bad addresses for this particular location, or good addresses if that's something you so choose. But I'll go ahead and leave that as none. And if we take a look down here, this is kind of the last ditch effort of giving you an opportunity to configure your output and see exactly what type of data you can expect in the output. Down here, you can see all the column names. You can go ahead and turn them off if you wanted to, or reorder them. If you wanted this MD address to be the very first column you're presented with, you can go ahead and do that here. Or if you've realized you've made a mistake, you can go ahead and reset it here, and it'll reset as per the defaults. So let's go ahead and save that. Great. So one thing to note is this history down here. You can see when a project was created, who created the project, who made an update to the project, so who may have added a new output filter, a new task, or whatever it may be. So before we go ahead and schedule and execute the project, I'll quickly go over the additional tasks that are actually available within the project. So you have your name parsing task, phone cleansing task, email cleansing task, and as I've already talked about, the address cleansing task. These tasks are for their appropriate data types. So the name parsing task can go ahead and take a full name and a company name and go ahead and try to parse through that information. So if you were to include a full name, we can go ahead and say, hey, this looks like this is the full or the first name, the middle name, the last name, maybe any prefix information that may have been included, like Mr. Michael Johnson. So Mr. is the prefix. Michael would be the first name and Johnson would be the last name. You can go ahead and do that here. And for your phone and cleansing tasks, this will just go ahead and validate and standardize all your phone and email data. So up here, you can see that Unison seems eager to go ahead and process this data here. This is highlighting, saying go ahead and process the data if you so choose, or you can come over here, schedule this project to be run on whatever time and date or whatever interval you want the project to run at. But if you're not certain that this is configured just properly, you can go ahead and hit this preview output button. What that'll go ahead and do is actually scoop up like the first 5 or 10 records and process that data as if you had actually executed the project, and you can view that output information here. So you can see here that we have all the output data here. If we scroll on over to the right, we'll see this MD address result column. So this is just saying, hey, look, this looks like it's a bunch of good addresses. If you're familiar with our result codes, you'll see this AS01 and know that this is a fully validated address, but I won't get into the nitty-gritty here. Over on the right is your original input data, just to retain that information. You can configure your project to go ahead and throw that data out, but I just prefer to keep that information so that way you can go ahead and see exactly how your input changed from your output. Go ahead and close that. So let's go ahead and try to schedule this project. So right off the bat, you can give this project whatever description you like, or you can move on down here and set the frequency. So a once frequency would just run, as it sounds, just one time. This might be important if you have, say, a 500 million record database that you need to process as fast as you can. So you can go ahead and actually schedule this to run, say, on a Saturday at 2 in the morning. So that way it starts running when load on your server is very low. And it'll be able to kind of get maximum throughput on your server. You can also schedule this to run on an hourly basis or daily basis, weekly, monthly, and up to an annually basis. So this will go ahead and allow you to choose what months of the year. So say you want a particular database to run on a quarterly basis. Perhaps you go ahead and choose January, April, June, and October. So it'll run 4 times a year on the first of each month at 2 in the morning. You can go ahead and set that here, but I won't go ahead and schedule that. So let's go ahead and schedule this job. So this screen is just the job status screen. What it's doing is just telling you, giving you kind of general information on your job, on your project, how many rows it's processed, how many and when it's done, how many rows total it's processed, how long it took to process, and it'll give you a nice little records per hour of how long the job actually took to process. If you look down here, you could see all your output locations. You can go ahead and preview your output data. It'll just scoop the first like 10 records or so and give you a preview of what that data looks like. You can go ahead and download your output file here. You can see it's just downloading here. If I wanted to, I can go ahead and open that up and take a look at the output. This is just giving you general log information. You can go ahead and search through that. It's not too interesting since the project was pretty short at only 163 records. But more interesting here is this reports button right here. I can go ahead and click on that. And I'm presented with a nice little pie, or really a donut chart, giving you an accurate overview of your output data. So if I just hover my mouse over this right here, you can see, oh, look, I had 132 AS01s, and that just means the addresses were fully verified. And this gives you an overview of how many or what result codes were returned. So it looks like we had a number of street-only matches, 4 non-USPS matches. If we scroll down, we can kind of get an overview of what improvement we got in the data. So this AC code just stands for address change code. And we can go ahead and see, oh, look, we had a number of AC codes that actually improved our input data, as well as what data was just outright bad. So it looks like we had a number of subpremise or apartment numbers missing in this data. And if we keep on scrolling down, we can see what kind of geocode statuses we got. So it looks like we're able to code down to a rooftop level 146 times. If donuts aren't your thing, you can go ahead and switch over to Excel mode here. You can go ahead and see kind of a table layout of, oh, look, this result code returned 5 times, which was about 3% of the total number of records in the file. And that will go ahead and return for each style of coding here. So if we jump into the job status screen, this just goes ahead and shows you the each iteration of each project that was run. So here we can see I executed this demo test project 2 times, as well as this test project down here twice, or it looks like 3 times for the demo test project. You can go ahead and filter out jobs that were executed by only yourself. So I'm logged in as administrator right now, but I could see that this test project was actually executed by Unison user down here. So if I go ahead and enable that, you see that only the projects that I executed are returned. If we go ahead and click down here, this is where all of our scheduled jobs would go ahead and pop up at. So if I had, say, 10 to 15 scheduled jobs and I want to create a new one, and I don't want them all to be running at the same time, this will give you kind of general information about what other scheduled jobs were created, when they were created, so that way you can kind of plan accordingly, so to speak. And as you saw earlier, this is just our projects page, so you can go ahead and filter out what private projects exist, only projects created by you. So it looks like there's 4 projects, 2 of which were created by myself. So if I only wanted to see those, I can go ahead and enable that. I can filter out by projects that have been processed, and fortunately, I guess all these projects have already been processed, or the projects that have been updated by myself. And I can go ahead and search here. So if I were to type in test, I would only see projects that have test input here. And that's just about it for actually creating and scheduling projects within Unison, seeing what reporting information available and the job status for each project. I'd like to just toss it back to Joseph to give some additional information.
So just to kind of review our timeline for the product, just to know what to expect on what's coming next. As Michael kind of demonstrated, we now have our global address verification, geocoding, phone name and email correction verification solutions available right now within Unison. currently in development is our matching and consolidation piece. So eventually, probably within the next few months, we will have the ability to provide a GUI-based system for fuzzy matching and deduplication of record, and also implementing golden record and survivorship rules for merging these records, which I really think is going to be a really, really powerful feature for the tool. Everything will be presented as intuitively as possible for the user so they could implement their matching rules, see how that kind of played out, go back and kind of make the tweaks and adjustments as necessary, just so they can get the results that they're looking for. And after that, in the longer future, would be our generalized cleansing component, which will allow you to create custom rules and expressions and scripts to accommodate different types of data that's not related or more proprietary. And also profiling will be another feature for the future, which will allow you to get all sorts of metadata, advanced types of metadata, and be able to perform reporting and analysis off of the profiling results. And this is what we believe will complete our suite of tools for data quality, and to make the product essentially quite competitive in the data quality field. And I think right now that's pretty much all we have to say. Liz, did you want to pass the...
Great. Thanks so much, you guys. We are going to move on to our question portion. We'll keep it quick, but before we do, I just wanted to remind you guys that I will be sending a recording of today's presentation along with a PDF of the slides to you within the next 24 hours. So look out in your inbox for that. Okay, so first question we have is, what operating systems does Unison currently work on?
So right now, Unison is supported on Ubuntu.
Although right now it's only supported in Ubuntu, we will also in the works is support for other platforms, including other types of Linux platforms, which have been the more popular route, including Windows as well, of course. So we will support those operating systems in the future for sure.
Great. Next question, how much does Unison cost?
So regarding the cost of Unison, we actually, the license for the platform will be based on the number of seats or the number of users. So it'll depend on the size of the company and how many people will be using the platform. As for the actual pricing, you could certainly email me in my email presented on the screen right now, and we can talk about that later on.
Great. Okay, we'll take one more question. Can we test out the product first?
Yeah, so we do. We can give you an Amazon instance to go ahead and log into and kind of play around and see what kind of functionality you can get and what kind of data results you can expect.
Okay, great. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for this morning. So if we didn't get to your questions, we will make sure to reach out to you personally and answer those for you. So thank you all for attending, and we'll see you next time.